So there are times where a VPN isn't enough to access the website that you want to access. Some websites block a country and then also no common VPN endpoints, and they block those too because they know that's how hackers sometimes try to pretend that they're in the country that the website is in. So, for example, your bank might not let you access your website from a certain country, but also block it from common VPN providers. So the trick that we're going to do here is we're going to deploy a computer into the cloud. And so what's the cloud? The cloud is Amazon Web Services is one, Google has a cloud, and what they are is they're computers in a data center somewhere in the world. And with the Amazon cloud, you can pick where in the world you want it to go. So if the website you're trying to access is an American website, you can deploy an AWS server in America. If you're trying to do it in the UK, you can do the same thing in the UK or in Ireland and all around the world. They have 26 or 27 regions or something crazy like that. And the cool thing about this is that you can get 12 months free, where you get 750 hours a month. Now, if you do the math, that's like 31.2 days. So basically, if you use the free tier of compute, it's free for a year. And then on month 13, it's something like 12 or 18 bucks, right? So it's not super expensive. It's about the same price as a VPN, and it lets you access the websites that you need to access. Now, this is not a substitute for watching Netflix or any of these other things that you might try to do over a VPN, because Netflix changes its content based on the country you're in. And you'll see why that's the case. But it will let you like log into your bank or do some of these mundane tasks that require you to be in that country when you log into the website, despite the fact that it is the World Wide Web. All right, so we can see that EC2 gives us 750 hours. So let me sign in to my Amazon account. You'll need to create an AWS account. They'll take a credit card when you create the account, but then they don't charge you anything unless you spend over the free tier. And we're going to make sure that we set this up just in the free tier. So we'll log in. When you log in at the AWS console or the management console, and there's a lot of stuff in AWS, and it's really confusing. Like even for people who work in AWS every single day, there's a lot going on in here. So let's just stick to the things that we need to do to keep this simple. And so what we want to do is we want to build an EC2. And you can see I've recently visited it. If you can't find that there, you can just come up here to search and type in EC2. And so we're putting a virtual server in the cloud. Okay, so what we want to do is you can now pick your area where you want to launch. So up here, I'm set by default to North Virginia. You can set Ohio, California, and then Asia Pacific, Canada, Europe, right? You can set it to all these places. I guess I'm not set up for some of them. That's totally fine, right? I still have London and Europe, Ireland and Frankfurt, but I'm going to set it up in US East 1, which is North Virginia. So you click that. I'm already there. Maybe I'll switch it to Ohio so we can just see what happens when you do it to Ohio. When you switch it to Ohio, now it says I'm in Ohio, and I hit instances. And you can see I have no instances launched. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch an instance. We'll call this like Doug. And down here, there's like a zillion choices, and it's really confusing. You can pick the instance you want. I don't think Mac has a free tier. If you're comfortable with Linux, you can use Linux. I'm going to show you Windows because I think a lot of people who are digital nomads and trying to do this will be at least familiar enough with Windows that they can use Edge or install Chrome and then log into their website. All right, so do Windows. It's going to be... and then we come down here, we want to make sure that it's a T2 micro instance because that's free tier eligible, right? There are all these different sizes, because sometimes when you put things up in the cloud, you need a big honking computer to do the math or whatever you're doing. We're going into websites. We're cool with just the free tier. You can create a new key pair, and this just downloads to your computer, and it's to help you log in. So we can call this Doug Login. And it'll save that. Right, and so you can see it saved it down here to my computer. We're going to allow RDP traffic from anywhere. RDP is how we're going to remote desktop in. And we're not going to let it connect. We're not going to let website traffic hit our instance. We don't want it to get hacked. The only thing is RDP traffic, and we're going to only allow RDP traffic with our key thing that we have right here. So it's going to be super secure. All right, and then we can just go with all defaults here. We're going to launch it. And, we've just launched a server in the cloud. So if I click that, I am now here at my server. It's launched, it's pending. So we'll let it launch. Okay, so I reloaded the page and now it's running. It took less than a minute, and it probably was even faster. I just didn't reload the page fast enough. So now we have this computer somewhere in Ohio running in an AWS data center, right? So what we want to do is we want to click on this instance ID, and there's all this stuff. Just ignore all that. We don't care about any of this. There's this stuff that, if you're a cloud professional, you care about. We're coming up here. We want to connect. So if you come here to Actions, you click Connect, and we want to do a remote desktop client. So we're going to click this, and then it says Connect. I'll move my face over here. It says Connect using RDP client, and then we want to download this file, right? All right, so it's downloaded, Doug RDP, because the name of my instance is Doug, because I'm really creative at naming things. Okay, so the next step is, we'll come back to this in a second, because when you log in, like this is this is where it's stored. Your username is going to be administrator, and then we have to get the password for you to log in, right? We want to keep this secure, but we'll get to that in a second. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come to the App Store. And in the App Store, there's a tool called Microsoft Remote Desktop, right? This is the app that we're going to open up. And when we connect using this, we'll be on the computer somewhere in Ohio. I have already downloaded the Microsoft Remote Desktop, so let's just open it up and get started. So here's Microsoft Remote Desktop. It says, add your first PC connection to get started. And if you do click this button, it's going to walk you through, you have to enter everything. And we don't want to do that. We've downloaded this RDP file to make that easy. So if we come up here to Connections in Microsoft Remote Desktop, you can import from RDP file. And that should be in your downloads file, right? So here's my Doug RDP file. And now it's imported all of the settings so that I can connect to it. Now, I'm the administrator for this computer, right? That means I have full access to do whatever I want. We need the password. So we're going to come back over here to this AWS instance, the RDP, where it shows the DNS. That's like if you could type this in, if it was a web page, it would open up, but it's blocked. We didn't open that up. Our username is administrator, and it says get password. So we clearly need to do this. So if we click this, it's a link. It's going to say upload your private key file. If you remember in the first step when we created the instance, we created a private key file. So all we have to do is go like this, and here's that remote login PEM file that I created. And there's my remote key, and we can go like this. And now it's decrypting the password. Here's my password. And I'm just going to copy that. This is the copy button, so we can do that. So now it's copied because I don't want to have to type that. That's ridiculous. All right. Now we can come back over here to the Microsoft Remote Desktop, and we want to connect. And so to connect, you just double click, and it says your username is administrator, and then because we have that copied, we just paste it. And if you look, there it is. I don't mind showing you this because I'm going to delete this instance in a minute, so no one will be able to log in. That's fine. So hit continue. And then it says, are you sure? We're not really sure it's secure. We're sure it's secure, so hit OK. All right, so now I've connected to this Windows machine somewhere in Ohio. And it's logging me in. And so if you use a Windows machine, you said it was initializing the Windows Media Player. This is the first time we've ever logged into this computer, so it's just going to do some silly startup stuff. And, if it had sound, maybe we would have heard a fancy Windows startup, but we didn't get to hear it. I hear it in my head. Do, 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 do. All right, but here we are. The browser that's installed No, we don't want to make it discoverable. The default browser is in Windows is Edge. It's like Chrome, but we can come here. And here's Edge. If you don't want to use Edge, you want to use Chrome. We don't want to sign in. Start without my data. You could sign into Google and do all that, right? We'll just do that. That way you... all right, so here we are. We're on Edge. And we can now log into any website that we'd want to. So if you go to your, www.usbank.com, right, it's going to work now. Whereas maybe it didn't work in your previous location. And you can see, like, it's really, really slow. Like, if I hit login, like, the reason I said you wouldn't want to use this for streaming, like watching Netflix, is that it just sucks. It's really slow. But what it does let you do is it lets you log into your bank or whatever it is that you can't do in the country that you're at because it's blocked by some sort of IP configuration. But, if you needed to, like, book an airline and you couldn't get in, you can do it now because you're browsing from America because you've connected into a computer that's in America. So I hope this is a helpful tutorial to anyone who's having this sort of problem. It's sort of a pain in the ass to set it up, but it is free for 12 months, and then it's like $12, $18 a month thereafter. And it's definitely a lot more reliable than a VPN because you're actually browsing from a computer in that country.